What you're looking at is a satellite image of one of the most heavily guarded compounds in human history, or otherwise known as Kim Jong-un's home. The whole property sits on about 2,800 acres and is surrounded by electric fences, minefields, and many security checkpoints. Inside the compound, Kim Jong-un's actual house is located right here, where there are many impressive amenities nearby. There's a 160-foot-long indoor swimming pool, a horse racing track with horse racing stables nearby, there's a running track, although I can't imagine that gets much use, an athletic field, and massive banquet rooms located in front of the residence's largest man-made lake. While these facilities inside the walls of the compound may seem nice, what surrounds the property is even more impressive. There's only 2 ways into the property, where the main entrance is 680 meters away from the highway, giving the security time to see who is approaching. If we zoom in even more, we can see that there's 2 thinly paved roads that lead to the first security checkpoint. Here, you'll be greeted by North Korean armed guards as expected, but what may not be expected is the massive ditch that extends around the entrance area, acting almost as a moat. This deep ditch and fence system requires vehicles entering the compound to travel over the thin road, rather than being able to steer off the road and travel around the checkpoint. In fact, this tactic of using ditches to funnel vehicles into only one way in and out of the compound is used at several other points around the property. Once you make it through this first checkpoint off the highway, you'll have to go through 3 other checkpoints before making it all the way up to what is the Ryongsong residence, or otherwise known as Kim Jong-un's main home. The reason I say main home is because this isn't actually the only place that Kim Jong-un stays. You see, in order to make it harder to track where Kim Jong-un is at any one time, North Korea has built a number of residences for Kim Jong-un to live in across the country. This makes the Ryongsong residence just one of many. There's the Kangdong residence, a little further up into the mountains, the Sinju official residence, which is located close to the border with China, and then there's even the Ryukpo residence, Samseok residence, Pyeongsang residence, Wonsan residence, Nambo residence, Yangsang residence, and many others. This massive system of different luxury residences scattered throughout North Korea is in stark contrast to the poverty and hunger that the actual residents of North Korea face daily. So how does Kim Jong-un travel from residence to residence, and what are all these residences actually like? Let's do a deep dive into Kim Jong-un's extensive network of secretive homes scattered throughout North Korea. Kim Jong-un likely travels to and from these different residences through an extensive train system. In fact, locating the different train stops through satellite images is one of the best ways to uncover where each and every one of the leaders' residences are. Kim Jong-un only travels by train because his father was extremely afraid of flying, and this fear likely carried down onto his son. This train that Kim Jong-un travels on is often compared to what traveling on Air Force One is like. There's 21 different rail cars that are all bulletproof, carrying a large entourage made up of security guards, doctors, family members, and the leader himself. The train only travels up to 37 miles per hour or 60 kilometers per hour, which means it can take several days to get from the southern end of the country to the northern end. In the case of an attack, there's a helicopter attached that would be used in order to escape. One of the closest train station stops away from Kim Jong-un's main Ryongsong residence is at the Kangdong residence, which often serves as a summer retreat for the leader. The Kangdong residence includes multiple houses, pools, another horse racing track, and of course an extensive security system. Right here is said to be the old North Korean leader Kim Jong-il's home, while this newer building to the north is believed to be where Kim Jong-un stays. There's believed to be only one publicly shared picture to ever be taken of this residence, which looks like this. You can see this is rather hilly terrain with several man-made lakes on the property. If we take a look at the walls surrounding the compound, based on the satellite imagery, the red represents the walls protecting the primary residence, the blue represents the walls protecting the inner parts of the compound, and the yellow represents the outer walls protecting from the general public, who by the way are starving, while its leaders, as you can see, are living in luxury. Scattered around the compound are these smaller buildings which are believed to be storage bunkers, holding holding fuel. These bunkers could also be used as a place to hide in case of an attack or nuclear war. Arguably the most important part of this compound, however, is the train station on the other side of the river from the compound that connects the rest of the country to this residence. From this station, Kim Jong-un can then be transported across the river by this road to the inner portions of his summer retreat. Despite the massive size of this compound, this isn't even Kim Jong-un's favorite place to stay in the summer months. About a 3-hour-long train ride from Pyongyang is the North Korean coastal city known as Wonsan. Here in Wonsan, Kim Jong-un has his Mar-a-Lago-style vacation residence. Built along a cliff and overlooking the Sea of Japan lies the Wonsan residence, which includes 9 large guest houses, a recreation center, his individual home, and even a large covered dock along the water for the leader's mega yacht. If we take this bridge across the canal, here you can find the train station Kim Jong-un uses to get to this residence, along with, of course, another horse racing track. This stretch of land actually used to be an airport, but was converted into a horse racing track to fit apparently one of the leader's favorite hobbies. Back closer to the sea, there's some security barges that protect the president's private beach. From land, this beach is naturally protected by the rather large hills separating the rest of the mainland from the sea. If we do a deeper dive into these specific buildings on this property, over here is said to be a theater and an indoor basketball court, while the leader's main recreational facility is just on the other side of the hill. Up on top of the hill is the former leader Kim Jong-il's old residence, but when Kim Jong-un came to power, a larger villa was built for him closer to the sea. Below the leader's residence are smaller villas where his friends and family are able to stay. Just within the past 10 years, a new residence off the coast of Wonsan has been built in a more secluded region of North Korea. Kim Jong-un is likely able to travel out to this residence by his mega yacht that he stores in his Wonsan residence. Now, this residence features a massive dock that can hold a variety of Kim Jong-un's boats, ranging from his 20-meter yacht all the way up to his 55-meter yacht. Additionally, the main building is located in the middle of the sand, where Kim Jong-un's main residence is to the right, slightly more elevated, and the guest villas are to the left. The building on the very tip of the peninsula is likely to hold staff and other supplies. There's even some recreational items in the water that could potentially be something along the lines of a floating raft to relax in. This may be Kim Jong-un's only residence that isn't connected through a train, but there are some dirt roads that wind through the hills and back to the North Korean mainland. Recently, Kim Jong-un has been spending more time at his northernmost residences that are in closer proximity to the border with China. There's 3 main residences close to the border with China, known as the Sinju residence, the Changsong residence, and the Picta-sun residence. China has been longtime supporters of North Korea and has opposed any kind of sanctions against the country. China likely doesn't want to see North Korea fail, as this means they'd likely have 26 million refugees flowing across the North Korean border into China. Arguably the most significant residence of these close to the border with China is the Picta-sun residence, which is also home to the birthplace of Kim Jong-il, the former leader of North Korea and Kim Jong-un's father. Although we can see what this residence looks like on satellite imagery, there aren't any images to be found of what the modern-day residence looks like. This residence is said to be the most secretive of them all because of the historical significance behind it. The few photos that are available about this residence, however, show the log cabin that Kim Jong-il was born in all the way back in 1941 when the Soviet Union was in control of the land. In fact, Kim Jong-il used this residence as the headquarters for the Korean People's Revolutionary Army to fight against the Japanese rule. This all happened before North Korea even became its own country. There's still monuments and murals here to commemorate Kim Jong-il and to signify the birthplace of North Korea. With all these different residences Kim Jong-un spends time at scattered across North Korea, you may be wondering if he actually spends any time in the nation's capital. After all, the capital of any country is where leaders are supposed to be spending the majority of their time governing their own country. Well, in Pyongyang, there's a few buildings that Kim Jong-un appears in. There's the Pyongyang City Hall, which is where Kim will oversee local governance within the Pyongyang region, the Korean Central News Agency headquarters, which is where the North Korean leaders control their propaganda machine, ensuring the North Korean people stay loyal and faithful to Kim Jong-un. There's the ministries and government offices, which are scattered throughout the city, where the leaders control the different sectors of government, from defense to foreign affairs to education, culture, and public security. And then there's the Supreme People's Assembly, which is where the bulk of the laws are enacted and the government policies are debated. It's definitely ironic that there's all these different government buildings for different sectors of the government when North Korea is under a dictatorship where whatever Kim Jong-un says goes. In fact, even though there's a train stop in downtown Pyongyang for Kim Jong-un to travel to these different government buildings, it's said that his train doesn't frequently make it into the city. Kim Jong-un likely makes most of his decisions from the comfort of his Ryongsan residence that we examined in the beginning of this video, which is roughly 15 kilometers or 9 miles from downtown Pyongyang. Inside the Ryongsan residence, at Kim Jong-un's private home, underneath this building is an underground wartime headquarters. This underground command center is protected with lead walls in case of a nuclear attack. While it's obviously very secretive as to what this underground headquarters is like, it's believed that there's even an underground railroad that would allow Kim Jong-un to travel to his other residences and even potentially into China in the event of a nuclear invasion. This Ryongsan residence is also strategically located very close to the country's top missile defense system. North Korea in recent years has been enhancing their missiles, both their offensive and defensive capabilities. In fact, on December 18th, 2023, North Korea launched their most advanced Hwasong 18 missile, designed to be able to travel across the globe and hit the United States.
조선민주주의인민공화국 미사일의 천국 신형 중장거리 극초음속 미사일 시험 발사에.
And then on January 5th, 2024, North Korea launched a barrage of artillery shells near the disputed Western Sea boundary with South Korea.
Residents of two small South Korean islands have been evacuated after North Korea fired more than 200 artillery shells into the sea off their coasts. South Korean officials called the shelling near the two countries' maritime border provocative and said it would respond with appropriate measures. 4 people were killed on the smaller of the islands.
North Korea is making these threats, hoping that South Korea and other allies would lift sanctions that are placed on North Korea. Kim Jong-un argues that lifting these sanctions would provide economic help to their country, which would benefit the struggling people of North Korea. But who knows if Kim Jong-un would just use his economic support to build more residences of his own. In fact, we only covered a few of Kim Jong-un's residences, where there's over a dozen scattered across North Korea. I wrote an in-depth review of these different residences using all the information I could find across the internet, along with satellite pictures to support them, which you can find in my new Patreon subscription. I really appreciate the recent support this channel has received, and with no sponsors on this video, I'm using this as a way to further grow the channel by getting assistance into deeper research and even better editing. Without you all, this channel certainly wouldn't be possible.